What's up, everyone? I am back with another video. Look, it's a new year, and honestly, I don't have any New Year resolutions, and neither should you. Nah, I'm just playing. Currently, right now, my hair is braided under this hat, or I should say I got it redone. We are going to be reviewing, or I should say my commentary over the movie Fences, because there's a lot to unpack here. It stars Denzel Washington and the very lovely Viola Davis, and I think these are one of their best performances, specifically Denzel Washington. I've seen some pretty good scenes with Viola Davis, so I'll give her credit, although I think Denzel Washington is a little bit before me, so I can't really give him that much nuance, but for this specific movie, I think I like him, so yeah, I'll give him that much. But let's just get into it. The movie is set in the 1950s, along with Denzel Washington's character being, or I should say, working as a garbage man, and Viola Davis being the wife of Denzel Washington's character. What is with people eating pig feet? Pig feet is fucking disgusting. I don't understand why anybody would want to eat that. So we have Troy's character, which is being played by Denzel Washington, and Viola Davis's character, which is being played by Rose. And they are in a conversation/debate about what it means to be treated unfairly. Tying into their conversation also about their son being seen by football recruiters at the school. Viola Davis's character is very excited about this for her son and finding out something that he's passionate in, while Troy's character is a little bit more opposed by it and saying that it wouldn't get him anywhere because it didn't get him anywhere in the process. And so with that, in context to the movie, he says, playing the white man's game. Viola Davis's character responds with saying that there's a lot more colored people playing sports nowadays, so there's no reason for you to have this type of attitude towards your son and what he's passionate in. And honestly, I think that he should be a lot more aware of the fact that there's a lot more colored people playing and giving them the opportunity to play. But at the same time, I think I understand why he was so hesitant, because he's like, if it didn't work for me, why would it work for you? And I'm just telling you something to protect you. The idea of trying to protect someone can also hurt them in the process. So you have to be very, very, very careful, have a lot of nuance to what you're actually saying and doing to supposedly protect them from whatever said thing. We then allude to the idea that Troy may have played baseball in the past, and I guess he may have been too old, and that's why he was never recruited, but that's his own problem with his own issues. So you have to be very careful not to then flip that over on your children so that they can go through the same trials and tribulations you went through. It's unnecessary. So then we switch to Troy talking to his older son, which wants to borrow $10. His older son is a musician that he goes downtown to play, and basically he doesn't work a normal job, but he wants to do something that he's passionate in, something that he's very, very adamant about and has a lot of admiration for. Whereas Troy's character is on the fence to give him the $10 because he's like, why don't you just work a normal job and you'll be fine. You'll have all the security in the world. So with that conversation, I moved to the ideology of what does it mean to do something that you're not passionate about, but then to also do the work for the security? Like, do you feel fulfilled with doing something that you don't want to do? But on the other hand, I also understand Troy's point of view, especially being the father/the parent, because he's like, I just want you to be okay and have security in your life and your family. And if you need to sacrifice your admirations for something that is going to help you in the process, then you need to do that. But we also have to keep in mind that Troy's character has already given up that part of him, so he's also still pushing that ideology or concepts on his children, because he's like, how dare you have dreams for yourself? And I just did not like that. I did not like that he was doing that to his children, that Troy's brother fought in the war and it damaged his skull in some sort of way. And so we see a very disabled person within the movie itself. And I'm really interesting and intriguing how they handled that character and how they kind of went about in the movie, and how the family itself and Troy dealt with their brother now being disabled. So there's a specific moment in the movie where Troy's son comes out and he says, "Dad, do you like me?" His dad, Troy, as Denzel Washington, says, "What do you mean, do I like you?" And he says, "Do you like me?" And he's like, "Why the fuck do I have to like you? You're my fucking son, aren't you? I break my back at work. I deal with people that do not like my skin color and all of this other stuff. So what do you mean, do I like you?" He's like, "I don't have to like you. I birthed you. I have no choice but to support you and take care of you because that is my duty." My biggest issue with this is I seen some of the comments saying like, "Well, that's tough love, this, and that." Homeboy, no. I'm sorry. Like, nobody wants to hear that because guess what? Your children need affirmations. Your children need to know that you support them. Your children need to know that you love them. So how that situation should have went, he should have been like, "No, son, I don't like you. I love you and I support you." That is the conversation that should have been had instead of what he actually said. But this is all based off of Troy's experiences and what he has dealt with in his life, and this goes back to him pushing his concepts or ideologies on his children. And his son's just kind of like just strut a little bit, but he kind of just accepts that that's what his dad is saying and he has to leave. We go through so much, especially in the 1950s, as African American people living within this American society and all of the stuff that has happened with oppression. And so when I hear Troy's character say that, it just rings bells in my ear that this is the stuff that we have to do better on, and there's some of the stuff that still lingers today, and what it means to actually like support your children and understand that when you have children, they most likely might be different from you, and you have to be ready for that. You have to understand and accept the fact that your children might be completely different people from you, and you have to understand that that is something that very well may happen. And you having expectations for them isn't necessarily bad, but when your expectations are affecting how your children think of themselves and think of themselves towards you, and it starts to affect their self-esteem and their life, you need to go back to the drawing board and you need to talk to your children and say, "I am sorry for having those type of expectations on you if they were this crippling to you, to your identity, and you trying to find yourself," because that can be a lot for somebody, especially when you're going through middle school. Like, don't even get me started about trying to find individuality within middle school, because it can be a whole goddamn fiasco. Like, it is. Troy references his father feeding him scraps of chicken fingers and anything that he ate, and whatever he left, that's what Troy as a kid could eat. And his dad basically did that to him all the time, and he beat his wife, and his wife ended up leaving him. And so with that concept, I'm like, yes, I understand that that is something that you experience, and your experiences are valid, and sometimes they do shape who the person you will be. But at the same time, when you have children, you have to do the work. The nuanced you have to do the nuanced work to make sure that you can be the best supportive parent you can be, or don't have children. And I think that is the biggest issue that I have. If you can't be a supportive parent, then you don't need to have children. And if those things can't correlate together, if those two things can't line up, then it looks like you're not having any children, does it? No, you're not. Childless. And and it's completely fine if you don't have any. You don't need to have children. Or I should say, moving a little bit forward in the movie, we then learn that Troy has cheated on Rose with this woman named Roberta. The two have a conversation because Troy's best friend is like, "Hey, you need to stop seeing that. You need to stop seeing that chick that you're seeing down the street. You need to stop paying for her drinks when we go out to the bar because you have a good, perfectly healthy wife. So why are you choosing to hurt her in the process?" And Troy's character thinks about this and he's like, "You know what? Okay, I'll tell her." It took him a while. He had to take her out to the backyard and he told her. And Rose is kind of just looking at him like, what do you mean? And Troy's like, yes, like I cheated on you, this and that. And Troy's like, I've done the work. I've put in all the effort. I work my ass off, and I am trying to be a better person and trying not to be the person that they say I am. And coming home to you and doing all of those things, I just want to have that space and be done, and be done with life. And Rose's character is like, well, I've given myself to Troy. Like, you can't just say that you've poured yourself into this box or this family and say that you're the only person that did everything. Like, I cook, I clean, I take care of you when you get home. I do all of these things as well, and the most likely the equal amount of effort. And you're telling me that I don't get any nuance to you cheating on me. And my biggest issue with this is that don't rationalize cheating. If you are in a failed marriage, in a failed relationship, a toxic relationship, you have to break up with them if it's safe. If it's not safe, that's a completely different conversation. But for the people that think that it's okay to cheat on your partner because they're not shit, you're still not a good person for that. You're a shitty person for that. You have to tell them that you want to discontinue the relationship. And so with Troy's character, he's trying to rationalize the fact that he not only cheated on Rose, but also got Roberta pregnant. And so Rose at this point is like, you have me completely messed up and I gotta leave. They didn't talk for months. And then Troy's character sees Rose's character outside of his work, and Rose's character wants him to come home, but Troy's just like, I don't know. Are you going to tell me that I can't see Roberta anymore? And Rose is thinking like, yeah, like, no, you can't see Roberta anymore. And, the whole baby situation, he then wants Rose to take care of Roberta's baby because she dies in labor and he doesn't know what to do. And I felt so bad for Rose because it was just like, how do you get put in a situation like this and having to take care of not only someone that had an affair with your husband, but also didn't give a fuck about you or your feelings or anything like that. But it's mainly on Denzel's character because he is the one that cheated. He is the one that strayed away from the marriage. So then she has to then deal with the repercussions and the consequences of his actions because he doesn't know what to do. We then come up on the final act of this movie, which is Fences, and I just want to say that it was such a weird space to be in as far as like watching the movie because Troy's character dies because him and his son have like a little scuffle, and then his son leaves to the Marines, and you see Troy about to hit the strung up ball, like baseball, in the back on a tree, and you see Troy's character having the bat and about to swing it, but you realize that he had a heart attack later on and he died at the hospital. We then fast forward a little bit more, and the Roberta's child that Rose was taking care of is a little bit more grown. She's probably like 6 or 7, and the older brother comes back to the funeral, and the younger son also comes back to the funeral, and the son and Rose have a conversation about what happened and why he left, and also that his son is not going to go to his dad's funeral. And Rose is like, that's super disrespectful. You have to respect your father and stuff like that. And he's just kind of like, he didn't respect me. He didn't respect what I wanted to do, what my passions were, who I was as a person, as far as my individuality. He didn't care about any of that. And Rose kind of even felt the way he was feeling in that moment, but also was like, I think you owe it to him to go to his funeral. And that's such a weird space to be in, because if someone's never giving you the nuance for you to ever be yourself, and then they want you to have some weird ass compassion to be like, hey, come to my funeral, I don't know how I would feel either if something like that happened, because I'm just like, you denied me to be my best self because you are bitter, or you are so scared of the fact that I might fail, that you would rather let us all go down with you. And that was such, it was just such a weird feeling for me. And so, with that said, I think the moral of this story is that life can be so unsatisfying and so unbearable, especially in certain circumstances or situations that you are dealing with. And there are some people that do not care about what they're going through, and will drag their spouse, their children, and anybody that they are close to down to where they're at, and funnel them through, and where their feelings of, or I should say their experiences, affect their spouse and their children and their friends. Their friends, and it's unrelenting. And then that's even a bigger concept about how much trauma you're actually doing, not just to yourself, but other people around you. Obviously, you still have to have the nuanced conversation that this isn't in the 1950s, and racism is still amok. So, based on my conclusion, that was honestly just more of a overall conclusion of what I think this story was really about. Obviously, I'm not applying the race aspect, because that's up and through this entire movie. So there's no reason to even really talk about it, because it's the 1950s. Like, we know it, we know. But that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment, and pop that bubble and subscribe. And I will check everyone later. Deuces.